Traveling the ether back to you, to a land so far away. I feel the distance in between.
So who would have guessed that after all this time, they would finally adapt that special chapter from way back relating to Kiwi? They took so long with that I had already read that chapter. Although it was appropriate to include it here. It had a nice little connection to the theme of the episode, which was the curse and the mystery of the curse and what the curse is doing on people that we don't even realize. So I thought that was a cool connection. It's just weird that they waited this long to include that chapter. Like a few episodes ago, we saw Kiwi fine, and that was what led me to say, oh, so Kiwi's alright, that birthday death disease was nothing. And then one of my commenters linked me the special chapter just so I could read it, because it turned out there was a lot more to that story arc than I had realized. So that was cool. I like that they included that. Hello everybody, I am PhenomSage, and welcome back to another Made in Abyss episode review. Today we're going to be talking about episode 12, the second to last episode. I know it hurts me, the true nature of the curse. Now before we get into this episode, I did want to quickly say, if you look in the description, contrary to what I said last week about reacting to every single episode from this point on, you'll notice there's no reaction. And the reason for that is because I just did not have the time today to record a reaction, do everything that I needed to do, especially on top of the fact that Amazon was late again this week, so that did not help matters. But yeah, I sincerely apologize for the lack of reaction this week. On a different note though, there wasn't really a lot to react to in this episode. It was more like just a lot of information, so I'm not too bothered by missing out on a reaction for this episode. It wasn't that bad. So yeah, but next week, you know, it's an hour-long finale. It's going to be something special. I'm going to try and react to that with my friend PhenomSage. We'll see if I'll see if he's available to react to that day. If not, it'll just be me, but I'm hoping I can get him on that too because he's been watching it with me. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's the reason why there's no reaction. I just could not get the time in today. As for the episode itself, it was actually, for the second to last episode, I'm not going to say it's disappointing, but it does feel a bit lackluster that a lot of this episode was a lot slower than I expected. People were telling me that like these last two episodes were going to be crazy, and that's how I like it. I don't like just the final episode being like the crazy one. Like I like getting into the craziness in the second to last episode and then continuing into that final episode. But on the other side, next episode is an hour-long finale, so I can understand why all of the crazy shit is going to happen in that episode. It's just weird that it was off to me that this episode was so slow. Despite being slower paced though, there's still a ton of information to cover, so we're gonna get right into this. Starting off the episode completely unexpected. I was very surprised that they actually did end up adapting part of the Kiwi storyline. It definitely is the chapter that I read, but it felt like they skimmed over some things in the beginning with Kiwi. I'm not sure. I only read it one time, but in my mind's eye, it feels like they kind of glossed over that special chapter. It was more of like just an extra thing to add in, like, meanwhile here this is going on. But on the bright side, we do see a new character named Mio, which I saw in the manga. I was like, who is this waifu and why have we not seen her yet? And I'm so glad they adapted this section and showed her animated, because that was really nice to see her character design. I really like her character design a lot. And while this whole thing is going on, I just keep hearing her voice and I'm like, who is that? Who is that voice actress? She sounds so familiar. At the time of recording, I still haven't gotten an answer. I asked on Reddit who it was, but I still haven't gotten an answer. So if anybody else knows in the comments who that is, that would be awesome for you to tell me. But I suppose I should actually get into what this special chapter is, because I can't just assume everybody's read it. This is one of the few things I've read on this thing that I can actually speak on. So basically, I was wrong way back. Kiwi and the birthday death disease, that is a thing that is affecting children, and it has affected him, and he is just gravely sick. Like, his life is in danger. So Leader actually calls in a doctor or a pharmacist from outside the town of Orth. I don't know where she comes from. I don't know if she's actually with that fleet of ships that's outside, or if she's from a foreign country, but she's brought in to look and examine Kiwi and figure out what's wrong. And so what they do is they actually bring Kiwi and Leader to outside the town onto the fleet of ships, which I think I read before that this is their like supply place. This is where all the supplies and stuff are shipped in from other countries to Orth, and probably likewise like Orth ships other things out. So I really like getting that kind of world building, realizing that this is a world, like it's not just around this town in the Abyss, but there's a whole world out there. That's really cool to me. And as soon as they're in the ship, as fortune would have it, Kiwi's fine. He's completely fine, he's over his sickness, and they're just baffled. They're like, he was so sick before, how did he just recover so quickly just by leaving the town? And I think they delved into this a little bit more in the chapter, but basically it seems like the curse of the Abyss is what is affecting Kiwi. And that's why he was so sick, and we don't know why it targeted Kiwi or what's going on with the children, but it is a side effect of the curse of the Abyss. And they don't really explain it, but when Kiwi goes back into the town, he's fine. He'll be fine forever. That Abyss curse will never affect him again. So I wonder what the deal with the curse affecting people on the surface is. Why is it only affecting children? Is it affecting other people and we just don't realize it? I don't know, but I really like this piece of world building. It brings a little bit more character, a little bit more information and background to the world, which is a good thing for this world. I want to know more. Before the opening officially begins, we get a narration from Liza, which actually ties in with something that's said later on in the episode. She talks about the cave raiders and how they all have this inexplicable drive to go into the Abyss, and to quote her, they feel that a life without longing is more terrifying than death. And I think that's really cool and interesting to view the cave raiders as like some kind of cult almost. Like they have their own belief in the Abyss, they have their own drive and their motivation to go into the Abyss, and we'll talk about this later because it's brought up later, but I just thought that was a nice little way to tie into later on in the episode with Liza or whoever is narrating the episodes. After the opening, we pick up right where we left off last episode. Mitty is climbing over Rico and slobbering all over her, and Reg, as soon as he walks in, he's like, what is going on? Get off of her, Mitty. Exactly what I was saying last episode. But as I figured, it really didn't mean anything. It was just Mitty having some kind of attachment to Rico. It was nothing threatening. She's not trying to eat her, which is what it kind of looked like at the beginning of the episode. And Nanachi actually says that Mitty will not attack humans at all. And I don't know if that's because there's still some form of like kindness and humanity in Mitty, which, you know, is the complete opposite of what we've heard. But I really like that there's actually some kind of semblance of a person in there, in that like monster-like creature. I think they did a good job of communicating that this was a person, and they try to still make you see them as a person. So Mitty basically spends the remainder of the episode on top of Rico, which is completely fine, and we learn about the antidote that Nanachi actually used on Rico to cure her of the poison, and we learn that it was actually made from Mitty. Mitty actually seems to have some kind of ability that neutralizes the poison in herself. Now, I don't know, what is that from? Is that from the 6th layer? Is that from something else that we don't know about? I have a theory that it might have to do with Bondrewd, something that Bondrewd did to Mitty while she was still alive. That's my guess. But it might have to do with just the 6th layer and how maybe the poison doesn't affect her or something. I don't know. But it doesn't affect her, it neutralizes the poison, and then Nanachi actually draws out blood from Mitty, and that is the medicine that she used on Rico. Following that, we get a nice little dinner time scene with Reg and Nanachi eating Nanachi's netherworld stew, and it truly does look horrible. It looks like it could kill you. And in the scene, we get a nice little back and forth with Reg and Nanachi. I really like their chemistry a lot. Reg is just so innocent, and Nanachi, even though there's a lot of fucked up shit I can imagine in her past, she also has like this innocent, more cute side that really bounces off of Reg well. Like Reg saying that the stew tastes horrible, and Nanachi's almost hurt that her stew did not taste good. But on the other hand, this does kind of feel like a scene that could have been cut and we could have made time for other things. Not to downplay the scene itself, because it was a nice little scene and it gave us a little bit more development with the characters, which I like. So I'm glad the scene is there, no question about that, but it does feel like something that could have been cut out if they wanted to make time for more other things. But at this point, I feel like they know what they're doing. The last episode is probably going to cover up till whatever, the end of Nanachi's arc, and I'm almost positive they have enough time for that, so we're good there. So I guess if you have the extra time, you might as well include these scenes that build up these characters more, because it makes us care about the characters more. After dinner, Reg questions what we've been thinking this whole time about the true nature of the curse. How does Nanachi see it? What is this thing? How does it affect the abyss? And Nanachi basically gives us all the answers through a really clever visual example of how it works. Essentially, it is explained that the force field that refracts the light onto the abyss in each layer is the cause of the curse of the abyss. It is what is all around them. And we learn that the curse itself is actually like a fog that is drifting around everything. But it doesn't initiate, it doesn't take effect just by touching it, because it's all around you. The way it works is it almost morphs around the beings in the abyss, and the only way for it to take effect is by ascending. And now it all makes sense, because by ascending, you are forcing through this visual metaphor fog, and that is what causes it to take effect. You're breaking through this blanket-like field of the curse, and once you break through that, it takes effect on whatever part of the body breaks through it. Nanachi goes on to further draw a very clever diagram of the way it works. It's almost like a trap that lets you continue down below it, and then you won't be able to continue back up. So I thought that was a really clever and cool way to describe the way the curse works. I wonder if Nanachi discovered all of this just by observation and learning by the way she can see the way the force field works, or if maybe it also has to do something with Bondrewd. I mean, obviously it has something to do with Bondrewd because she can see the curse, but I wonder if Bondrewd ever taught her anything about that. We don't know. But on top of that, we also actually learn about why the orbed piercer was so intuitive during the fight with Reg and Rico. It knew what to look for, it knew what Reg was going to do ahead of time, and at the time I simply just chalked it up to just, it's a really smart creature, it knows what it's doing. But we've learned now that other creatures deeper in the abyss, along with the orbed piercer, actually use the fog-like force field of the curse to predict the future and to predict what move Reg or anybody else that's chasing after will do. So I thought that was a really cool way of establishing why these creatures are so dangerous, is because they can see the curse too, and they can see through the curse what somebody is going to do next by the way the curse moves around them. Like, they can tell which way they're going to move, what they're going to do, etc., etc. Reg then asks, if these creatures are so dangerous and are able to actually predict the future, why do cave raiders keep going in? How do they even make it down so far? Isn't it way too dangerous? And Nanachi's answer ties directly back into that Liza narration that we heard at the beginning. And she says that the cave raiders will never stop longing for the abyss, no matter what. They'll always want to go further and further. And I really like that line, because it just personifies almost the entire theme of this show. And it's adventure, it's about desire, it's about longing, and the abyss is the catalyst for that longing. And I wonder if later on in the series we'll ever get an explanation for why cave raiders have that longing for the abyss, or if it's just, you know, natural human curiosity. I'd be fine with either. I'd be fine with either just humans are like that, or if there's some kind of effect in the abyss that, like, draws people in. While this is going on, we see Mitty on top of Rico still, like she's just laying there and just crying or something, making those noises, those creepy noises. And it's at this point that we actually see some kind of vision inside of Rico's head. We see Rico as like this almost bag of flesh. It's really creepy looking. I almost thought it was Mitty for a second, but the eyes were Rico's. And honestly, I don't have any idea what's going on in this vision right now. You see that Rico is looking through a hole, and you can see Mitty's eye on the other side. So maybe this is what Rico is seeing in her sleep because of Mitty on top of her, or maybe that's what Mitty is seeing. Mitty is looking at Rico through this hole. I have no idea, and I have no idea what it means either, but all I know is it's really creepy, but it's also it's just a really cool visual representation of what's going on. So yeah, without spoilers, if anybody has any theories on what that means, I'm totally down to hear what people think, because I have no idea what any of that could mean. Going back to Reg and Nanachi are going on an expedition now. Nanachi said that she will actually show him firsthand the way the curse works and the way that creatures in the abyss use the curse. So they're going to go try and find the orbed piercer to fight it again, and Nanachi's going to show him the way around fighting. But as they're out, they hear a whistle and Reg just dashes for it. And I was so confused because I was like, who else is down here right now? What is going on? And as Reg makes it to the whistle, we find out that another whistle is down here, a black whistle. Apparently he was trying to make it back up and he just got attacked by the orb piercer. Luckily he didn't actually get hurt yet, but I'm surprised that Reg was able to make it to him before the orb piercer actually attacked. Reg initiates combat with this thing yet again, despite the cave raider saying leave because he thought Reg was a child. So at least this dude is nice. He's not saying like, rescue me now! He's like trying to get Reg away. So I thought that was a cool way to show that this guy is actually a good guy. And Nanachi actually gave Reg a relic earlier. I assume it's a relic. It might just be technology, but I assume it's a relic that attaches to Reg's helmet and acts almost like a speaker or a walkie-talkie, where Nanachi is actually giving Reg instructions while he's battling the orb piercer. And during this fight, we actually get some crazy good animation. The line work on that orb piercer was looking clean. Anyways, Nanachi gives some blind instructions to Reg that he just must follow without hesitation. And the first thing she tells him to do is just look up. Look completely up. And obviously that would kind of freak me out too. I'm supposed to look away from the giant creature that's trying to kill me right now. But after Nanachi talks him through it, he looks up completely. And what I'm going to say happened here is by looking up, it shifted the force field around Reg and made the orbed piercer think that Reg was going to do something different than he actually did, because then Nanachi says jump right, and so Reg jumps right and grabs the orbed piercer right on that orbed snout, mouth, whatever thing it is, organ. And we find out that, like I said last week, the organ, that orbed thing on him, is his weak point, but it's also how he senses the curse around him, the force field of the curse. So by grabbing that, he has no way to determine what Reg is going to do, what's going to happen. So at this point, Nanachi's just saying, beat him up. You can beat him up now. There's no way you would have been able to grab him before, but you did it because you psyched him out. You made a decision that was different from what your conscious decision would make. Or as Nanachi says it way better, Reg uncoupled his actions from his conscious mind so the orbed piercer would not predict his movements. So I love that so much. I wonder if that'll ever come into play. I'm sure it will. That has to come into play later on a different layer or something. That has to. So since he's given the go-ahead, Reg activates his incinerator, and at this point I'm like, what are you doing, Reg? You have this thing on the run. Why are you going for the incinerator now? But he uses it, and the orb piercer just narrowly dodges it by shedding 80% of its spines. And at this point I'm like, holy shit, Reg, you're fucked. He dodged the attack and now you used your incinerator. How are you going to get out of this? But as fate would have it, the orb piercer just runs away because 80% of its spines are gone. So I guess now it can't really do the hunting that it used to. So Reg technically won. My question though is, after this, he does not pass out at all. And if he does pass out, we weren't shown it. So I guess there is a kind of an explanation, like if they just skimmed over him passing out. But they didn't show it, and they didn't even show him thinking about passing out. So I wonder, did he pass out? Are those rules still in play? Is this anime only and that's why it wasn't even explained? I don't know. But it was kind of weird that he used the incinerator and didn't even think about the fact that he would be passing out in 10 minutes. After taking care of the orbed piercer, he walks up to the cave raider that was being attacked, and Nanachi's like, "What are you doing? That guy will see you. Those guys are a danger. They're only second to the orbed piercer. Those guys are dangerous to us." But Reg walks up to him anyways and says, "Can you deliver a message for me?" He tells him to deliver a message to Leader on the surface and say, "We are still continuing on our adventure." And I love that. I love that entire moment. I love that line. I wonder how surprised Leader would be to find out that they actually made it to the 4th layer. Like some cave raider comes back up and says, "I ran into this kid on the 4th layer and he said to tell you that we are still continuing on our adventure." And Leader's just like, "Wait, what?" Although knowing Leader, he probably wouldn't be too surprised. He'd probably be like, "Alright, well, I figured you'd be at layer 5 by now, TBH." On our walk back to Nanachi's hideout, as we're almost there, Reg is just praising the shit out of Nanachi. He's like, "Wow, that was so cool the way you told me to move out of the way, psych him out, attack him. Oh, you're the best. I wish you'd come down to the bottom of the netherworld with us." And Nanachi just stops for a moment and she said, "Well, actually, I did have something to ask you." And at this point, I'm like, wait, is she just gonna straight up say, "Take me with you? Like, let's go to the bottom?" And Reg's just like, "Yeah, what's up? You can ask me anything." And all Nanachi says is, "Please kill Mitty for me." And that's just when shit gets real. There's just this horrible atmosphere that just takes over once you hear that line. Reg's smile just vanishes, and I thought that was just a really powerful line. I love the way Nanachi delivered it, and I'm guessing this is where shit gets real. Next episode is going to be insane. To close out the episode, they slowly fade into a flashback material of Nanachi carrying Mitty on her back out of the 5th layer. She's climbing up. At this point, she can see the curse, I imagine, so hopefully she knows what she's doing on how to avoid it. But it's a really cool atmosphere. You see almost like this snow-like environment. I had no idea that the 5th layer would be like a cold environment, but that's really cool. And for some reason, seeing Nanachi carry Mitty out of there, I suddenly put 2 and 2 together. All the best dad jokes, all the foreshadowing, everything. The moment I questioned, wait, why are Nanachi and Mitty even down here in the first place, I realized Bondrewd is either Nanachi or Mitty's father, or he could be both, but Nanachi never really refers to Mitty as a sister, so I wonder, I feel like Bondrewd is only one of their fathers. So the question is, how did the other person get down there in the first place? I don't know why it took me so long to put those two things together, but that is just my theory now on what's going on here. I could be completely off and they're just two children that randomly made it to Bondrewd and Bondrewd's like, "Yeah, I'll take care of you." But I feel like one of them actually is his child, which would make the things that he's doing to them even more fucked up. In the background of this place, we also see the very location that we see in the opening every time. Just this giant spiral or giant thing just going down into the earth and going up into the earth. And I wonder what that is. I've heard the term elevator thrown around a bit, so I'm guessing that's what it is, but I have no idea what's going on with this. What is it? Did Bondrewd build this? Who knows? I feel like a lot of things will be revealed next episode on the finale of Made in Abyss. And I was wondering, like, what are they going to call this episode? What is this finale called? The title for next episode is The Challengers. And I don't know why, but that just sounds really foreboding and really awesome to me. So the hype for next episode, the hype for the finale is real. We're getting that hour-long finale. I am so excited, and that pretty much does it for my review for this week. Overall, kind of slower penultimate episode, but if next episode is as good as I think it will be, I can forgive it. I am so fucking excited. I cannot wait. As always, let me know what you guys thought of the episode in the comments. Thank you again for all the support. I'm sorry again for the lack of a reaction. Oh, and a quick update for a future video that I'm doing. On Sunday, me and my friend Femencho will most likely be doing a post-discussion / review of Princess Principal, which is ending that day. So anybody who's following the series, look forward to that. I'm sure that's going to be a fun discussion. Thank you all again so much for watching, and have a great day.